activities, once they started the main text, so let's say it's day 2 on chapter 2. Some of those things are really quick little things, and some of them it says, let the kids do this independently, but you model this one. Those are the ones that I turned into small groups, and we treated that day as a center. So if it says independently, have them mark with their sticky notes as they're reading, looking for examples of conflict, I would have them do that on their own. And then if there was like a video I wanted them to watch with a viewing guide for that day, or maybe something we didn't have time to do that had grammar from the couple days before, I did that as a group. And then I would take a group and they would rotate through me, and we would discuss whatever they marked with their sticky notes or whatever the other activity was. But some of the deep dives, what's the other one? The other? Yes, sound convention and deep dives. Sometimes I would save those up because I either didn't have time, because in 5th grade my kids would get really into the discussion part of the text. So we may not have time for conventions, or we may not have time for the deep dive on the, morphemes and whatever. So I would save those, and that's what I would do in small groups and rotate through once a week, every couple of weeks. So that's how I did it, but I'm sure, in 1st grade it's different.
Yeah, it is different. In 1st grade, we do the wit and wisdom I do it for 90 minutes straight, and then my actual small group is after lunch. Like I've done wit and wisdom, I've done foundations, they go on to lunch specials, and then come back after lunch, and I do small group for about 30 to 40 minutes. And I do, instead of like a daily 5, it's more like a daily 3. There's a writing task that goes along with each lesson in wit and wisdom for us. And so one group is doing the writing task independently. One group is working with me either on a decodable reader, a levels reader, or some kind of phonics activity. And then the 3rd group is working on iReady or a reading aid on a Chromebook.
And that's essentially what mine was, except a shorter amount of time. And I may get to one group, and if it was my higher group, we would pull different books, but ours didn't necessarily go with whatever we were studying. So in Module 3, we talked a lot about wind, but that didn't necessarily mean that in my small group we were talking about wind. They were reading something that they were interested in, so my small groups looked a little different in that respect. So it was more of things they needed to work on, or things that they were interested in.
Mine's kind of like theirs. They are doing kind of like a daily 3 or daily 5, and they're choosing a self-selected book on their level and reading it to themselves, and they read it to 3 friends, and then they respond to that text. And then after they do that, I conference with them. And like Erin said, it's not necessarily on topic with what they're doing in wit and wisdom, because we're practicing their fluency.
Scheduling, how are you getting science social studies students done? So for me, I teach all my language arts in the morning. Like I said, it's wit and wisdom, foundations, writing, and then I go into math. And at the very end of the day, for the last 40 minutes, I teach science or social studies. I just trade them off one at a time. So that's when I do mine at the very end of the day.
I didn't have to teach social studies last year. I am teaching it this year. My partner shafted me to 3rd grade. No, she got moved. But
how are you getting science social studies?
I did.
What do you mean?
I mean, we are struggling with, if we are trying to get our core subjects in the morning, we are left with a 45-minute period of time at the end of the day, and we are going every other day, so we will technically only have each class half a year. So there is no possible way to get through standards, and that really stresses.
Mm-hmm. What grade are you all?
4th.
Okay, because I know for 5th grade, and I know it works a little bit with 4th grade, because I've talked to Ms. Howard at our school, but like my Civil War books, one of them is nonfiction, one of them is fiction. If I don't get through any of the supplementary readings with wit and wisdom, just those, I've hit all of my language arts standard or reading standards for the year. Like one core text so far that I found, at least for 5th grade, when I went through it, all of my standards have been taught. But and Ms. Ewan and I worked close together last year kind of doing it, but if there was something, the wit and wisdom seemed to give her a good background for the kids to build on. Like when we did the baseball story on, the Negro League Baseball, the whole thing was based in segregation, so they didn't know necessarily the people that they needed to know, like Martin Luther King Jr., things like that, but it gave them the background. So since I'm teaching both this year, what I'm gonna try to do is incorporate those people as they go through with the wit and wisdom, if that makes sense. Cause we're kinda gonna have the same schedule, I think, Kelsey and I are, from what, isn't that what you kinda have gathered? So we're just gonna try to incorporate, the social studies part goes pretty closely with wit and wisdom from what I've been able to see so far.
And that's different grade to grade. We're still learning. We don't know. I do know that there are a lot of social studies and science standards within each of the curriculums, but how much changes per grade. So some grades are really heavy, like you've got a lot of them covered, and some are not as good. And so that's something Paul and I mean, it's not necessarily our realm, but it is. We want to help. So we thought it would be helpful for us at the beginning to take some time and to work to create a document that at least defines what social studies and science standards are being taught within Wit and Wisdom and which ones are not, just to be able to hand that to teachers and kind of clarify, okay, what's covered, what do I gotta find resources for, and a lot of times with you guys starting in these upper grades, working together with the science social studies teacher to say, okay, I'm covering this, so number one, how can you support that, and also this is freeing you up to then tackle X, Y, and Z. So that's something we want to work to try to help, because I know it's tough, and I think that's where we're headed as far as trying, you only got this much time and you got this much to teach, so how can we integrate as much as possible together? But it's also something I don't just fully understand yet how much every grade level does or does not teach.
Well, and next year, social studies standards change,
Right.
so what's civil in fifth grade now will be
Right.
less in fourth grade.
Right.
And so,
It will change.
then you're all back.
And we'll do the work again, but that's okay. But yeah, so hopefully, like we've seen in some, it is covered. But you're right, even different states. So like within Wit and Wisdom, as I'm reading those blogs, somebody would say, well, why did they put, this story in fourth grade? We don't have that as a standard. And it'll be another state says, oh, but we do, And it's like, well, they can't, yeah. If every state's different, it's a little hard to develop that way. But next question.
Independent reading, when? Small group, I would do it in a small group.
And I think even Kristen said that, hers is kind of at a different station. So if it's like the daily 5 or daily 3, which is gonna turn into, probably then would be a great time. I know that a lot of times my kids do it in the morning, like we don't have morning work. They come in and their morning work is you sit and you read, and depending on what you do with it after that, and then, there are times that I had some of my higher kids that would finish something that my lower kids really needed me there, and I can't be in 14 different seats at one time, so my 4 or 5 high kids that would finish, okay, grab your book, find a spot around the room, so there are built-in times for those kids. It may be your strugglers that you would have to ensure that they have that time, whether it be through a rotation in your small group or, in the morning.
Yeah, we did ours in the morning, and with the testing and claiming, and some of our kids were never in science and social studies, but we still had to claim 100%. So our schedule next year, we're going to make our SSR time during the tier 3 pull-out time, and that's when my RTI time will be as well. And then our other kids will be independently reading, which again, your low ones aren't necessarily getting that independent time, but on their own. But at the same time, my ones that are with Ms. Williams or Ms. Booth couldn't read independently on a 5th grade level anyway. So, yeah, there's just lots of places. And there are some days, Wit and Wisdom, a day will take 2 days, or it did for me, because the kids wanted to talk about it more, or wanted to discuss this more. And then there were other days we'd be finished in 30, 45 minutes. So we would have that time left that they got to read. So it really just depends on, I think, the day too, of what's planned in the book.
And I think the grade level too.
Yeah.
For me, during my small
year, how do you recommend I coordinate with the RLA/SS teacher?
Did you,
So.
and I don't know, Lauren, did you coordinate any?
They're
With-
gonna be teaching math and science, how do they coordinate with the ELA social studies teacher?
The science didn't really overlap. We did a lot social studies wise, like I would say, let me see your standards so I can, see what's fitting, what can I review for you, what can I, do that way, but as far as science goes, it really didn't.
I think, again, it depends on your grade, like we were saying this
Yeah.
morning, the module we looked at, I think there was some connections, and so I think it's gonna depend on your grade, the module, but I think it would be the same idea, it's just sharing what you're learning and seeing where we can work together, but.
Well, and our group was really good about, like if I found a guest speaker or something that fit with our unit, we would all just stop and everybody, we had the accessibility to a big room, so we would all go together to see that guest speaker if that would work for them. So that helped too, because then that gave our math teacher and me a little more information that I could incorporate from mine and, what she could do. But that was the biggest thing for us is with the whole thing is just you've got to be flexible. You're not gonna get, day one may not last one day. And, I mean, you may not get done with the section in 9 weeks, but it's worth it to follow the kids' pacing, at least in 5th grade, than it is to follow the book's pacing, because it pays off.
Okay.
It might also help just to know how this is being taught. You could implement that in the other.
Some of those
subjects,
strategies
the
and
same
routines,
strategies,
that's
just to
true,
reinforce it.
that's true. It's just cause they're learning it anyways, their quality routines, might as well share that, so that's true. I'll answer these two, they're nitty-gritty, and then we'll get into more questions and allowing them just to kind of share their thoughts on the program with you. One is just, it says, iReady 45 minutes a week, ? And yes, so most of you know, the district has purchased iReady for reading. We had it for math, so it's the same idea, but for reading. It will be our universal screener now, so we don't have to try to do both. And then just like on the math, it will show you, it will suggest groupings. So for a leveled reading group, it will suggest who those groups might be. And it also will provide 2 things. One is instructional, like lesson plans, like paper lesson plans that you could use within those groups. And the other is online lesson plans that are targeted to those individual students. And you saw that in math. So that will be the same, and it will be provided to us. And the suggestion from iReady is to have like 45 minutes a week, and not all at once, but like a 15-minute and a 15-minute. So, so yes, that will be available to us. It's definitely probably helpful for a leveled reading group. Time-wise, where that fits in, that's going to be kind of a school level and a classroom level choice of what classroom it's happening in and when and where.
Elaine, last year, iReady Math was included for RTI 2, Tier 2. Could we
Right.
see about possibly getting added to reading RTI Tier 2? Because it's not listed as an official.
There isn't a list of official RTI2, it's added. Ding, done. No, it is, everyone thinks there's an official list, it's not, there is not an official list. What the state has said is that it needs to be a research-based program. It is a research-based program, so yeah, I mean, that can be part of RTI squared, yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
we questioned.
That is the infamous approved list.
Our school
But
was
doesn't
one of the
exist.
pilot schools for iReady, and it was being so much for iReady reading and math.
Yeah. On the alternatively, while we say that, there's a lot of lists that you can go to if you're looking for programs that tell you what is research-based. But there's not just a one list of yes, you can use it, no, you can't. Do you see including resource students with your wit and wisdom lessons, or should they be pulled out? Resource